I know I told you that I would introduce you to my landlord from hell in my last video, but I wanted to not skip the really, really important stuff, and that is all of the strategic planning, the marketing planning, the business planning, all of the planning that goes into a business before you actually start opening or start looking for any properties or invest any money, which is exactly what we did before we started doing anything. This was while I was still in Australia. We hadn't done anything at this point, but we planned absolutely everything out. And in this video, I want to show you how I do all the financial planning, how we look at all the, like the salon capacity, and this is going to be really useful for you, even if you're just working at home by yourself, so that you understand whether you're working at a profit or if you're working at a loss. And if you are working at a loss, or if you want to increase your profit, what you need to do in order to be able to achieve that. So what what numbers you need to affect in order to grow your profit. So for example, if you understand that, after doing this financial calculation, you understand that your capacity is only 30%, and we know that you have 5 more clients that you can serve per day, then we look at, okay, what do we need to do in terms of our marketing plan to make sure that we can actually get the right number of clients per month, so that you cover your full capacity and you get the profit that you're after. So you're covering all your fixed expenses and all of your variable expenses. In this video, I also want to show you how to actually set up your space physically so that your work is very efficient, so that you're not wasting time by getting up, going somewhere, doing something, going there and back, there and back. And I also want to show you how to actually set up your equipment in the entire space, so that again, your square meters in your salon space actually are working efficiently, so that you don't have a lot of wasted space and that the salon setup is actually effective. So going back to the story, once we started planning all of this, I was already overseas, and we did the majority of the work while I was actually in India. And it was very interesting to combine all of the spiritual side of things and the materialistic side of things, because we woke up, we had this like tea ceremony in the morning, then we went and listened to a lecture from a guru. And then we had every single day the same, every day for a whole month. Then we had from around 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock to just do your own thing. So every day from 2 to 6, we did all the work, we did all of our calls with the partner, we did all of our planning, we did all of our orders, everything. So first of all, of course, we did all of our business calculations, and let me show you how we do that. I wanted to show you just the gist of what you need to look at. So for example, we're looking at, we need to consider, are we going to have our staff on a commission, or are they going to be getting a wage, under TFN? So if you're going to have someone under TFN, or if it's going to be under wages, under ABN commissions, you need to first of all calculate how much is it you're going to be paying per week per employee. So here we're looking at per week per employee. Here you need to understand for yourself as well. How much is it that you're going to be paying yourself per week, and how many hours you're going to be working, and what you're going to be earning for that. This is very, very important, especially because in the future, if you're going to start hiring someone, you want to, you can't be doing things for free now that you're going to have to pay someone else to do later. So you really need to understand how much is it that your employee is costing you. So for example, we have some different price options to have a look at. What is it, how much is it going to cost us? Again, here the numbers are not actual, this is just an example. So for example, if we have a service that costs $80, we pay $8 in GST, we pay $33 in salary. That's with the provision that a manicure or a pedicure service takes 1 hour. So service costs, cost of manicure, payment fees, if there's any percentage, etc., and what do we get out of that after that. So these costs are actually usually a lot more, significantly more. You need to include rent and things like that. So here we've just included just how much does it cost in terms of base and gel and things like that. But we need to, of course, look at all of our costs, all of our fixed costs, all of our what are they called? Variable costs, your rent, your insurances, absolutely everything. You need to make sure that you include, even if you're working at home. This is very, very important. And in my beauty business course, I actually have very, very cool calculator. I tell obviously how to do all the financial calculations, what you should be including, what you shouldn't be including, the calculations, the calculation calculator, the cost calculator, and everything's included. So if you're interested in that, I definitely recommend having a look at the beauty business course. And next, what we look at is we look at the square meters. So for example, we had a look at, if we get a property that's 60 square meters, we need to have a kitchen, a reception area, waiting area, walls, waiting zone, and corridors. So we needed to make sure that we have everything fit, because you need to remember about walls take up space as well. So we calculated how many maximum working spaces we could fit into, say for example, a 60 square meter place, and how much it would cost us, in the area that we're looking at minimum. So here we have a look at our occupancy rate. So for example, if we have, 6 stations that have 12 services, because again, 2 services per station, $70 per service, and we're working for 10 hours per day, then this is our 100% occupancy rate, this is our 20% occupancy rate. So we need to find out where is it that we're not losing money, to make sure that our salon is running profitably. So make sure that you do this, but do all of your calculations properly and correctly. And if you need some help or assistance with this, remember, beauty business course is the perfect solution for any beauty business, because it gives you lots of things about marketing, about business planning, about strategic planning, and everything you need to know to run a business. Once we did the business planning, the financial planning, of course you can't do one and then the other. We do this side by side simultaneously, because we needed to do our marketing plan and our business plan together, so that we understood that what we wanted in terms of our concept, that we could first of all market it correctly and get the right location, get the right size property, get the right concept, have the right services, and of course have the right salon space, actual retail space. So we kind of did this at the same time. And as I said, with this salon, I was really interested in kind of combining that spirituality and materialistic side of things, because I already have a salon as it is at the moment, and I didn't want to do a huge change that was very sudden. So I thought this would be a really great place to start it as this different concept. And of course to test it out and see how it goes, and how it could benefit other people and just the community. So we did all of that every day. We do all the planning. I remember I did all of the sketches, all the calculations, to again make sure that everything would fit. One of the biggest issues that we had was nothing would fit. I'd try it this way and I'd try it that way, and my spiritual friends would be helping me in our breaks. Would be like drinking tea, and they'd be helping us do all of the configurations of how we'd put the furniture, because we did our financial plan before we did our marketing plan, and before we got the property, to make sure that we knew exactly how many working spaces we needed in order to get the profit that we needed. So for example, in this amount of space that cost us a certain amount of money, we needed to make sure that we had, for example, 10 working spaces, because if we had only 5 working spaces, then we wouldn't be able to cover all of our costs. So when we're planning an entire salon, obviously we look at, okay, for example, this is how big our salon space is, and we see how much space you need per station. For example, we had the concept of 4 hands, so that was 4 hands, manicure and pedicure at the same time, or pedicure and lashes. So we needed obviously a bed, we needed a table for a manicure, a seat for a person, and a seat for a person here. So we had tech, and the happy client obviously. So we understood, okay, how many meters was this and how many meters was that, and how many of those stations we could fit in a way that would look beautiful and actually make sense. And of course you also need to make sure that you have all of your other spaces, like for example, sterilization zone, and how that's going to all look. Make sure it's all functional, so that as soon as a person walks in, they have dirty instruments, cleaning area, disinfection area, sterilization area, clean instruments area. So everything needs to make sense and all fit inside the salon. You need to have a kitchen space for your stuff. You need to make sure you have a waiting area. Even if you're at home by yourself, you need to make sure you have a little waiting zone, because sometimes a client comes early, and a really frustrating thing that I see a lot on social media is when people are like, my client came 10 minutes early, like, you know, I kind of going to eat my food. You need to run this and treat this as a business, because it's not a problem that a client has come in 10 minutes early. It's actually better that they've come in 10 minutes early than 20 minutes late. But give them a space where they can sit down, read a book, or have a look at some nail displays, or have a look at a price list. You can upsell during this time, or like leave some home care products and a little about this home care range, so that your client is entertained, they've come in, they've settled down, they're not like this when they've come in. So having a waiting zone is very, very important. The other thing I wanted to share with you is when you're setting up your own space, or a single space for working, you need to make sure that everything is within reach, because if you're getting up each time to do something, this is going to be very, very difficult. So you need to make sure that, for example, if you're doing a manicure, you have your manicure table, you need to make sure that it's the right parameters, so it's not too wide, it's not too narrow. You have your client chair here, you have, let's change that to the color. So you have your client chair here, you have your own chair here. Again, you need to make sure that your client chair doesn't have wheels, for example, because if your client's wheeling around, not very good for you. But you, however, have to have wheels, so that even if something is just behind you here, you can just reach and come back. So you don't have to get up off your chair, walk over and come back down and sit down. So even when we're planning our desk, we need to make sure that everything is organized on our desk in a way that is easy to use. So even, for example, if you're right-handed, your setup is going to be different to if you're left-handed. So again, everything is within reach. So for example, even the way that we store all of our products. So say if this is your desk and you have some storage shelves here. It's not writing very, very well. Let's try a different color. So this is your desk, this is the leg of the desk, this is the desk, this is your storage space, and you're sitting here. So you have some drawers. You need to think about what are the things that you're using most often. So for example, your nail file, your orange wood stick, all of your bases. So what is it that you're using with every single client, all your disposables, and what are the things that you don't need to use so often. So for example, if you're storing your instruments at your desk, you need to keep them down here, because you open it up at the start of the procedure and you take them and that's it. You don't go back and forward. But wipes, for example, lint-free wipes, or like some spirit, or your base, you're going to be using them very frequently. I also recommend, even for things like designs, obviously have like a whole cupboard of designs, because of course we all love all of our sparkly everything. I have like the biggest design collection. You can have all of that in a separate space, but I really recommend having express designs that you obviously have a little display tips here of express designs that you can do very, very quickly, and you have them here in your shop. Very quickly to reach, because if someone has come in late, or even for example, someone didn't book in a design, but you want to first of all upsell and they want something different, something special, you can just be like, oh, if you'd like to do a little design, make something very beautiful, we can just use, have a look at one of my express designs, basically. You don't need to call it an express design, but you know what it is. So these are just some little tips for you on how you can make your space more efficient, and obviously make more profit and be much quicker in your procedures. And I'd love to hear in the comments below, do you guys do business planning? Do you do financial planning? Do you do marketing planning? If you do, let me know. If you don't, also let me know, because I love educating about this. I love helping with this. So we can definitely be useful for each other. So let me know if this is something that's interesting for you. Now, once we found the property, we had the issue that everything we liked in the location that we wanted, because location is very, very important. and obviously for the vibe and everything, for the whole concept that we wanted. Location was super important, and every single property that we found, it kept getting taken or something would happen, and like we just wouldn't even get a chance to look at it. So as soon as something came up that was within our budget, within our required square meter usage, as soon as that came up, we got onto that really, really quickly. We snapped it up, and here we made our biggest mistake because we missed a piece of documentation, and I will tell you about that a little bit later on once I tell you about how it all went wrong. But we missed the piece of documentation here that was absolutely vital. So even though we did all of this planning, all of this preparation beforehand, a tiny little thing like that can happen. And we signed the lease because obviously we didn't want to miss out. So we quickly put in the deposit, got them to do the lease, checked the lease, and we missed one bit. Mind you, it's not even that we missed it, it's that we didn't ask for additional documentation. That basically, and because in the lease we signed it that we take the property as is, basically it's our problem. So even though the landlord asked all of the questions, or the agent of the landlord asked all of the questions that we, what are you using this property for, blah, 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 blah. We answered everything like that, yeah, that's fine, no problem. And then it turned out big problem. But we'll get to that in a later video. So what I'm trying to say is, make sure that you do all of your planning, all of your preparation, check everything, double check everything. So my biggest piece of advice here really is don't rush, because when something is meant to be yours, it'll come. If you don't want something but it's meant to be yours, it'll come as well. So that's where we had our downfall. But let's get back to all the planning, because we didn't know that this was our downfall. We signed all of the lease, we got everything ready, we got a bank guarantee, we paid the deposit, everything was paid for. We negotiated good conditions, we negotiated 3 months rent-free period as well to make sure we get everything done. Get all the renovations done, order all of our furniture. And this was important that we had time, because once we actually planned everything and picked all of our furniture out, because we wanted the whole concept, wanted everything to look absolutely beautiful. Once we picked all of our furniture out, so we were ordering everything custom made, custom order in China, at a high quality manufacturer. But the next problem that we came across is that we ordered 1 week before Chinese New Year. So that means that they said, sure, we'll take your order. Some of them said, yeah, no problem, we'll send it before the holidays. And they closed for a whole month, mind you. So there's no manufacturing, no shipping, no nothing for a whole month. And some of them said, yeah, no problem, we'll send it before the new year. And we're like, oh yeah, cool. And then a week goes by, they're like, sorry, we didn't get enough time to do it. We didn't send your order, so we'll send it in a month. And you couldn't do a refund. And obviously, we've already ordered everything, we picked everything. So anyway, so we had to wait. And there was heaps of delays. But I personally really, really love the process of picking things out, choosing, finding the perfect, all the little vases, all the little bottles. I love it, from big furniture to all the tiny little details. I love choosing everything. So this is what we did, and I'll show you all the little bits and pieces that we chose. And I've actually got a special checklist for you that you can use as a beginner startup, so that you can actually just go through everything, okay, I need this, and this to start working. So you can click on the link below this video and download that little guide. So that whole month in India, we were just working so much, and I was changing, I was going through such a huge transformation at the same time, because remember, every single day I'm with a guru who's doing lectures, I'm going through a lot of internal transformations. We're just very, very full on time, and I get this huge burst of energy out of nowhere, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Just so many ideas coming through. This, that, everything, it's all happening. It's all so exciting. I was really, really very excited. But at the same time, through those personal transformations, I was with my fiance in India. We spent that whole month together. Towards the end of the month, because before that our relationship was a little bit, we had some problems. And by the end of that month, we came to a decision that we should split up. Because it just wasn't working out. So on a soul level, we really loved each other, and it was a really difficult breakup. We were driving from the ashram to the airport 5 hours, and just both of us were crying the whole time. We're like, I love you too. But we just understood that, like, the ego side of us, the I, it was just too proud, I guess, and both of us were just kind of like bulls, we couldn't find that common ground, and we just decided it's for the best that we break up. But the interesting thing is that from 6 months before that, he proposed to me, so we got engaged, and we really wanted to have a child. So for 6 months we were trying to have a baby, and halfway through the India trip, I started feeling that, like, my body's starting to change. Something's definitely not usual, not how it's supposed to be on an average month. And but I didn't say anything because I didn't want potential knowledge of this pregnancy to affect our decision, because I didn't want just both of us to be like, yeah, let's try just for the sake of the child, when we weren't in a happy relationship. We weren't in that position that we actually wanted. It wasn't how we both wanted. So I made the decision not to even do a test. I didn't find out. And once we split up, my ex-fiance, he went to Russia and I went to Dubai, because I had a lot of opportunities, a lot of projects there as well, so in terms of like marketing and crypto, things like that. So I went to Dubai, and that night I bought a pregnancy test, and I remember waking up halfway through the night and I was like, oh, should I go do the test? And I was like, I'll find out I'm pregnant and I won't be able to sleep. So I didn't do it, so I just went back to bed. So when on the internal level you just know. And in the morning I did the test and it was like instant pregnant. I'm like, well, I'm not even surprised. And the interesting thing was that later that night, I was meant to fly to Australia. And for some reason, my flight, I couldn't buy my flight. My agent couldn't buy my flight. Just didn't work out. And I ended up calling my ex-fiance and I told him, looks like we're going to have a baby. And obviously Dubai is much closer to Russia than it is to Australia. And I thought, okay, well, first of all, he's like, come to Russia, like, let's get everything checked, make sure everything's good, that you're healthy, that the baby's healthy, make sure everything's okay. And I thought, that makes a lot of sense because it's close, and if I am pregnant, like, I don't want to be flying huge distances. So I flew over and we tried to make everything better. We went to counseling and we just made things worse. And after a couple of weeks in Russia, I went back to Dubai and decided that, okay, I need to finalize everything. Had to come to terms of raising this baby by myself. There was a lot of, childhood trauma coming up and a whole lot of things. So this is a very, very interesting time. Again, like I said, huge internal transformation. And finally, of course, I went back to Australia. I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to be doing this alone, I should do it in a country where I'm familiar with everything. So I went back to Australia to, first of all, figure out what I'm going to do with my life now in my new status. And of course to look after my current salon, my Cova nail salon, to make sure everything's growing, everything's working, improving, and to open up this new salon space. So let's finish this video on this very interesting note, and in the next video I will finally introduce you to my landlord from hell and everything that went wrong with that, because I have never even heard of something like of someone of a situation so ridiculous as what we had to go through. So make sure you follow and like and subscribe so I know this is interesting for you and so we can continue, and I will see you in the next video.